and welcome back to another episode of Flash in the Pan. We've got a name now, which is fantastic, and today what we're going to be making is an apricot and almond tart. Now, we're going to be doing this in two separate bits, one bit for the tart itself and the other bit for the filling, but in total what you're going to need is 400 grams of butter, 11 eggs, 355 grams of caster sugar, 400 grams of flour, 225 grams of ground almonds, and some vanilla extract. Safe to say, this is not going to be the healthiest recipe we do in this show. Oh! One thing I forgot to say was ground almonds and apricot slices. So can we do that again? Okay, so I've got a measuring bowl here and also a set of scales with another bowl on top of it, and what we're going to start by doing is measuring out our butter and sugar and creaming them together in the mixing bowl. This is for making the sweet pastry. So we're going to start by measuring out 180 grams of butter, which is quite a lot. And then 130 grams of caster sugar. And then just get a spoon and mix them all up together. Okay, now we've got this this mixture of butter and sugar that we've been creamed together. Now what we're going to do next is take 6 egg yolks and add them in one at a time, beating in after you've added one. Why are you beating it in after you add one? Because I've told you to, that's why. It just makes it a little bit better, although it does take a little bit more time. So you just break the eggs into a bowl. Separate them out. And beat them in. Okay, now after you've done that, you should have this eggy, buttery, sugary mix. Delicious. And the next thing you need to do is measure out 400 grams of plain flour and slowly fold that in by just sieving a little bit into the mixing bowl and just folding it in gradually. Okay, so after you've done that, what we're going to have to do is take the bowl over to a flat surface and give it a little bit of a knead. And there we have it, our pastry, which is going to go in the fridge to chill for 30 minutes. Okay, whilst the pastry is chilling in the fridge, we're going to start working on the frangipan for the tart. I've cleaned and dried off the mixing bowl and gotten a new measuring bowl out of my cupboard because I couldn't be bothered cleaning my old measuring bowl. And what we're going to do is measure out 225 grams of butter and 225 grams of caster sugar and beat them together in a bowl with a teaspoonful of vanilla essence. I told you this is a really unhealthy recipe. So after you've beaten together the butter and sugar with the vanilla essence in it, what we're going to add is between 4 and 5 whole eggs and beat them together, like with the egg yolks in the pastry, one at a time. Okay, so after you've added in your eggs, I only used 4, but between 4 and 5, it's up to you. You're going to measure out another 225 grams of ground almonds and add that to the mixture as well, just folding in quite gently. So after you've done that, you should have something that looks a little bit like this. Essentially, they're just like a cake batter with ground almonds in it, because that's kind of what it is. And what we're going to do is we are going to wait until the pastry is chilled in the fridge. Then we are going to line it in our baking tin. We're going to do what's called blind baking, which I will explain in a minute. And then we're going to add the filling and the apricot halves, fling in the oven and finish baking, and then that'll be it done. Now what we've got here is our pastry that's been sitting in the fridge for about half an hour, so it's nice and chilled. And I have also taken out this flan dish, which is what we're going to line it in. First things first, get some butter and line the inside of the dish so it doesn't stick, because otherwise your whole tart is going to crumble and be bad. Now, after you've done that, it's probably a good idea to turn your oven on to 160 degrees Celsius. I'm using a fan-assisted oven, so it'll be a little bit hotter than other ones, I think. I still don't know what that is in gas mark. I don't think I'm ever going to know, but you've got the Google, so it's fine.
160 Celsius is 4.
Thanks, Neil. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your pastry and dust down your counter just a little bit of flour and just roll it out to sort of a reasonable thickness and then transfer it into your flan dish. Now, one thing you'll definitely have noticed about this so far is that it's an incredibly short pastry and it basically just falls apart whenever you try and do anything with it. Don't worry about that, that's completely normal. It happens every single time I do it, and you're not going to be able to pick up this whole thing and just put it into your flan dish in one go. It's not going to work. So just basically try and put as much in as possible and then just kind of put in more, layer the bottom, and then just press all of it together. A bit like, oh god, let's see how much I can get. And this is our pastry. For better or worse, as I said, you just kind of have to stick it together because it's very, very short. Now, what I said earlier in the video about blind baking, this is the bit where we do that. What blind baking really just is where you get a bit of greaseproof paper and you put it on top of the pastry and weigh it down with something when you put it in the oven for about 10 minutes. So the pastry just bakes a little bit without rising. And essentially what this does is it just tries to keep it sort of dry when you add the rest of the ingredients, so you don't get the famous Great British Bake Off thing of a soggy bottom. I have got these sort of porcelain baking beads, but you don't need to use them. You could use like lentils or like even just dried pasta.
Frozen chickpeas.
No. They'd melt. They'd thaw. So yeah, I'm just using porcelain baking beads. You can use dry pasta or lentils or literally anything, but you just have to put down some greaseproof paper first. And then get your weight of choice and just put it in and just kind of move it around so they all reach every corner, and actually weigh this down. And then what you're going to do is you're going to fling this in your oven for between 5 to 10 minutes, just so the pastry starts to cook a little bit. Now I've taken out the flan and the porcelain beads, and I've increased the oven to 180 degrees, and now what we're going to do is we are going to add the actual pastry mix and some apricot halves to it. So it's very simple. You should really let this cool all the way, but we're running low on time. Okay, now I've added the apricot halves in absolutely nothing resembling an order, because I can do that. And we are going to transfer it back into the oven that is at 180 degrees, which is, Neil, in gas mark?
I don't know, like 5.
There we go. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the edges of the flan dish off, because this is one of those collapsible ones that you can get. And we're going to do so with the hand of this lovely jar of coffee beans here. So you just pick it up carefully, and it just comes away like that. And just transfer it onto a plate. And there we are. One apricot and almond tart.